local, lethal, and loud. This is the Scooter McGee Show on News Talk 1310 KFKA.
The following program is intended for mature audiences.
Good evening and welcome back off of Good Evening Metropolis. Emerald City, Xanadu, Babylon to the ISS, and the rest of you. Welcome back to Hour 2 of a Quantum News Network production of the Scooter McGee Show. Interesting stories from around the world in a Take Out the Trash News weekend. NASA's experimental supersonic X-plane project has a new name. Interesting, we have the X-39B secret space spy plane that's not so secret. That's why I find this moniker for this aircraft interesting. She's now being labeled as part of the X-59 moniker, the QSST, Q-U-E-S-S-T. A nod back to the original American X-plane history. The Bell X-1, of course, famously piloted by Chuck Yeager. The Air Force assigning the X-59 number to NASA's experimental supersonic. They're not saying space plane or not. NASA officials announced this yesterday. The plane was originally just designated the Low Boom Flight Demonstration Mission. Lockheed Martin building the jet for NASA, developing the technology needed for quiet supersonic aircraft for alleged commercial future travel. Concorde was fine, but it was not in my backyard. You're eating on the train. I'm calling the police. That's San Francisco. An idiot needs to. I can't. Now I see why, because blame Trump. That's right. Trump made me just say that. Jesus. Guy's older than me eating every. I'm going to call him. Wow. Two other private projects considering commercial supersonic travel right now are Virgin Galactic and Boom Technology. You haven't heard of Boom, so. The idea is New York to London, 3 hours. That was the idea in the 50s. Spike Aerospace developing its own quiet supersonic jet, which would go New York to London in the similar performance time, not obviously New York to Tokyo or, no. Okay. Aeroflot, of course, the Russian airline. They flew the Tupolev Tu-144 very successfully. People in Russia aren't allowed to complain about noise. Here's some more vodka. I got a bunch of comments from some of the faceholes up on social media. Anyway, 1310 Greeley Westside Liquor hotlines are going to be open now. 970-353-1310. And with this heat, I know it's going to be late, and it's a nice night outside. So if you want to call Greeley Westside, it filled the entire cooler with the frozen slushy margaritas and the daiquiris and the strawberry margarita. So they'll be sure to deliver those. All of Greeley, all of Evans, 970-353-0036. But His Holiness the Pope now says America's borders need to stay open. The World Bank and the central banks, of course, demanding our borders stay open. And again, this is to collapse the economy. And the economy now is starting to sputter and wake up. Confidence is high. The Democratic blue wave has fizzled out. And in fact, with the Democratic Socialists of America now popping on the radar, and exactly what I said that night did not take 24 hours. She's running for president. Mom says she's always wanted to run for president. I never thought I would go from a bartender to being in politics. She is funded. And the agenda is to break apart not just the Democratic Party, but the Republican Party. Maxine Waters continues to deny her statement was anything about violence and continues to quote President Trump's comments on the campaign trail when the progressive left did nothing but yell, scream, and attack him. Pope Francis. This is absolutely unbelievable he said this. What's worse is the media reporting it and those now standing behind His Holiness the Idiot. His Holiness the Idiot. Third time. Again, el nombre del Padre, Filio y Espíritu Santo. His Holiness the Idiot. His Holiness the Idiot. Pope Francis calling for open borders in the United States, urging authorities to take in as many refugees as they can. Which I was going to say, Your Holiness, have you taken a look at Germany? And he says, well, you should look at Germany and Sweden as the models to follow. Rampant crime and rape in the streets, Your Holiness. Telling reporters, again, aboard Papal One, each country must do with the virtue of, what is he? If he's on the plane, he's in international airspace, he can say whatever he wants? What is that? Each country must do with the virtue of government, which is prudence, and take in as many refugees as they can, and can integrate, educate, and give jobs to. Your Holiness, when you get off Papal One and get back to the Vatican, take one of the Velasquez off the wall and put it up on eBay. Pope Francis praising both Germany and Sweden for being model societies, most generous in taking in migrants. Francis, for years now, pushing the New World Order ideology, which now they openly talk about on MSNBC. Pope Francis, who has pushed New World Order ideology for years. But there's New World Order agenda. These statements merely the latest in a lot of disturbing announcements coming out by this Jesuit Pope. And I'm sorry, false prophet, name it what you want, this comes out of St. Malachi or Malachi, depending upon how you want to pronounce it. Legitimate concerns now because, again, it was just last week the Pope calling for a one-world government, citing political authority, combating the issues of climate change. As the hottest day of the year in the Northern Hemisphere has now exposed record amounts of ice on the Arctic ice cap. MSNBC says that His Holiness Pope Francis arguing that the creation of a one-world government is needed to combat major issues such as climate change. His Holiness Pope Francis, who has for years pushed a New World Order ideology. I thought the New World Order didn't exist. Collapse the borders, collapse the economy, collapse the people so they can be controlled. From the 1973 movie with the discussion in the garden executive decision to the Georgia Guidestones. The only difference is one says 500 million, the other says 550 million. Ladies and gentlemen, this isn't a joke anymore. All of these corkscrew and ice holes known as politicians who are running around telling you, promising you, if you vote for them, they'll look out for you. Fine. Get in their face and demand they sign an affidavit that if they are elected, they will abolish the Federal Reserve. $20 trillion in debt is gone. And if they say they're not going to acknowledge any of that, then you've just outed another puppet. Those aren't politicians. Those are puppets. They know about double cooking the books. They can read the Grace Commission report. We know all of the atrocities of alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. U.S. Customs and Border Enforcement. The FBI, the CIA, the IRS. These are now weaponized branches of government that you allowed to be set up under the guise of protecting you that have now done nothing more than enslave you. And you're worried about who's getting traded to what football team when. You've allowed them to win by your sheer acquiescence of sitting back and simply doing not a fucking thing. It's someone else's problem. It'll never happen here. It's always somewhere else. You just heard top of the hour ABC News that there was no targeted shooting, yet that doesn't explain all the headlines of a targeted shooting now, does it? Hey, you party animals and super fans out there. Greeley Westside Liquor's got your party covered. Be the hit of your next party by calling 970-353-0036. That's 353-0036. Greeley Westside Liquor delivers to all of Greeley. Fast through the drive-thru and even faster by delivery from the friendliest folks in Greeley. Remember 30th and 10th Street? Remember Greeley Westside Liquor delivers after 4, open 8 a.m. to midnight 7 days a week, and Greeley Westside Liquor is your party bowl central.
What may be junk to you just might be another man's treasure. From stamps, sports memorabilia, silverware, or old jewelry, what may be junk to you just might be another man's treasures. Located at 2002 9th Street in Greeley, Another Man's Treasures can take these old items and convert them into cold, hard cash. Located at 2002 9th Street, remember Another Man's Treasure.
So you think the Pawn Stars are in Vegas, huh? Have you been to City National Pawn? 3301 West 10th Street in Greeley, and you're the Pawn Star. With great deals on commercial and industrial tools, electronics, smartphones, laptops, and fine jewelry. So many great deals and a constantly changing inventory guarantee you get the best deal in town at City National Pawn. Need quick cash fast? City National Pawn has got you covered there too. Monday through Friday and Saturdays, remember, you're the Pawn Star at City National Pawn, 3301 West 10th Street in Greeley.
Well, I'm glad to hear Chris is okay. What's the condition of his car?
It can be fixed. I'm just waiting to hear from my insurance adjuster as to where.
We'll take it over to Auto Collision Specialists. They've repaired my cars for years.
I wanted to, but my adjuster says I'll have to pay additional costs out of my own pocket to have it repaired at Auto Collision Specialists.
Stop. You pay your insurance premiums in good faith every month with the expectation that if you have an accident, your insurance company will pay what's necessary to repair your car correctly. In many cases, that's not what happens. Scare tactics like threatening to make you pay out of pocket or not warranting the work are tricks that will not be tolerated at Auto Collision Specialists. You can rest assured we have your best interests at heart and will do everything in our power to make sure your insurance company fulfills its commitment to you. Remember, insurance companies don't fix cars. We do.
Auto Collision Specialists will take care of that.
Matt Rivette started in real estate just in time for the bottom to fall out of the market, and it turns out it was a good time to start. From day one, Matt Rivette had to do it right. Serve the client. Turn for sale into sold. 32 years later, we know market conditions will change, but Matt Rivette's commitment to you won't. This is a good time to get to know Matt Rivette at Pro Realty. List your commercial, income, or residential property with Matt Rivette. Call Matt Rivette at 970-356-1234 or go to ProRealtyHomes.com.
Last time on the Hull Show.
Top 5 Broncos that are feeling the most pressure. So here's how I've got it going. I go Case Keenum, I go Devontae Booker, and at the left tackle position, I do go Garrett Bowles. I'm going number 4 with Emmanuel Sanders. Bradley Roby, to me, is number 5 because with him going forward, he's essentially taking Harris's spot. Harris is taking Talib's spot. So now Roby is that number 2.
This has been the Hull Show replay. For more, tune in weekdays from 11 to 1 on 1310 KFKA. Cutting-edge commentary from the edge of reality. The Scooter McGee Show is back on News Talk 1310 KFKA.
The following program is closed captioned for the thinking impaired.
The Democrats now attempting to tie Trump's Supreme Court pick to the Russian investigation. Welcome back, Gotham. Well, where to start here? Supreme Court. This is getting ridiculous very fast. They can use the nuclear option. They can slam it down your throats. Famous POTUS 44 for all of the lame duck appointments. Choke off the system. Refuse to accept any appointees. That's what the Democrats now have done since the election of POTUS 45. And now, Majority Leader Mitch McConnell on the Supreme Court vacancy.
The Senate will vote to confirm Justice Kennedy's successor this fall. This is not 2016. There aren't the final months of a second-term constitutionally lame duck presidency.
Oh, I see. So, again, it was okay for Obama to do this, but certainly not again. See where this is going real fast? They're going to choke this up. And that's why I'm now so desperately afraid we are about to be attacked. From within, from our own elements within this shadow government and the secret societies and the elite that fund them. The shooter in Maryland was targeting people. It turns out he wasn't targeting anybody. That's what the preliminary investigation in the first 8 hours has concluded. Are you effing kidding me?
With the presidential election fast approaching. We're right in the middle of this.
The presidential election fast approaching 2 years from now. Do you understand these corkscrew and ice holes don't even know what they're saying anymore? Delusional. Mitch McConnell delusional by alleging that the presidential election is this fall.
Fast approaching.
Back it up.
See, with the presidential election fast approaching.
A presidential election fast approaching. That would be November 2019. Or 2020. 2021. No, Scooter, that would be November 2020. That's what I thought. Again, I'm a high school dropout. I could be wrong.
We're right in the
What's that, guys? Is that me?
middle of this president's very first term. To my knowledge, nobody...
We're in the middle of the first term. He certainly can't appoint a Supreme Court justice now. He's in the middle of his term. It's not like he's a lame duck and going to shove it down everybody's throats at the last second like our predecessor.
Either side has ever suggested, before yesterday, that the Senate should only process Supreme Court nominations in odd-numbered years. The situation today is much like when Justice Kagan was confirmed.
You're a lying sack of crap.
No.
You're a lying sack of crap.
Yeah.
You're a lying
comparing walnuts to bowling balls.
In 2010. and when Justice Breyer was confirmed in 1994.
2010 would have been a midterm.
And Justice Souter in 1990.
Oh, 1990 midterm.
In each case, the president was about a year and a half in to his first term.
Oh, I see. But Trump's over a year and a half, so no, we can't do that. You're right, Mitch. You're right, Mitch. You bet. You're right. We're wrong again. This is unbelievable. Cory Booker warning the President of the United States' conflict of interest in selecting a Supreme Court member when he's under investigation for collusion with the Russians. Listen to this bull.
I don't need to repeat the very
highly intellectually educated.
Strong statements of a lot of my colleagues already about the standard that we set. I will say at the time that this was happening, I was new to the Senate and was frankly stunned that we would take away the constitutional powers of a president of the United States with about a year left in their office. It's as if we were to say that a president only has 3 years of that constitutional power. We stripped it away and did not allow him to appoint somebody. That was very stunning for me as a new senator to this body, that I would watch that would happen. And I felt it was wrong at the time, but it was
wrong at the time,
clearly a standard that was defended. We heard the language not only of Senator McConnell, but we heard it of colleagues that set this standard. And if that is the standard to abide by, here we are now less months away from an election. And so it was either a new standard being
less months from an election. Notice how Cory Booker, again, attempting to equate the midterm elections with a general election. Just as Mitch McConnell did. Listen to that again.
To abide by, here we are now less months away from an election.
Less months away from an election. When in the past president, it was about a year.
This body, that I would watch that would happen, and I felt it was wrong at the time, but it was clearly a standard that was defended. We heard the language not only of Senator McConnell, but we heard it of colleagues that set this standard. And if that is the standard to abide by, here we are now less months away from an election. And so it was either a new standard being set, albeit one that I agreed with, or it was a constitutionally inappropriate or an offense to the Constitution, a naked power grab.
It was a naked power grab, Cory, back then, and it is a naked power grab now.
It was unconstitutional and cynical assault. It was one of the two things.
It's the latter.
If it was a standard, we should abide by that new standard.
It's not a standard. The president can appoint whoever he wants right up to the moment he gets thrown out or leaves.
I do want to point out one thing that hasn't been mentioned by my colleagues that we all should know and be aware of.
Listen to this crap.
Which is, to me, what I think is clearly a potential conflict of interest, one that has a profound reach. The President of the United States right now is a subject of an ongoing criminal investigation, an investigation that every member of this committee knows could end up before the Supreme Court. This is a committee that has shown its ability to work across the aisle. I'm really proud of the things that I've been able to work with a number of people on this committee.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry to interject, but
yeah, how many degrees? I stall for time. 30 after, 30 to the top from the CRP 4x4 studios. Yeah, you want to talk about abuse of power. You want to talk about corruption. You want to talk about collusion. You want to talk about conflict of interest. Boy, I'm the one who could talk. And probably will soon be doing so with a lawyer. That's how pissed I am.
We're going to cool it down by about 10 degrees for Friday and then another 10 for the weekend. Otherwise, Matt Makins with your Colorado Zone Channel 2's Pinpoint Weather Forecast. Today, hot again, obviously. Tonight, we barely cool off much at all. We'll stop in the mid-60s. For Friday, sunny and 95, so no triple-digit heat. For Saturday, a slight chance of afternoon thunder showers to carry into the evening. High temperatures will be around 80 degrees or so. Sunday, a bit drier with highs near 85.
This weather update is brought to you by North Range Behavioral Health. Visit northrange.org.
Matt Rivette started in real estate just in time for the bottom to fall out of the market. And it turns out it was a good time to start. From day one, Matt Rivette had to do it right. Serve the client. Turn for sale into sold. 32 years later, we know market conditions will change. But Matt Rivette's commitment to you won't. This is a good time to get to know Matt Rivette at Pro Realty. List your commercial, income, or residential property with Matt Rivette. Call Matt Rivette at 970-356-1234 or go to ProRealtyHomes.com.
So you think the Pawn Stars are in Vegas, huh? Have you been to City National Pawn? 3301 West 10th Street in Greeley, and you're the Pawn Star. With great deals on commercial and industrial tools, electronics, smartphones, laptops, and fine jewelry. So many great deals and a constantly changing inventory guarantee you get the best deal in town at City National Pawn. Need quick cash fast? City National Pawn has got you covered there too. Monday through Friday and Saturdays, remember, you're the Pawn Star at City National Pawn, 3301 West 10th Street in Greeley.
Last time on the Hull Show.
Top 5 Broncos that are feeling the most pressure. So here's how I've got it going. I go Case Keenum, I go Devontae Booker, and at the left tackle position, I do go Garrett Bowles. I'm going number 4 with Emmanuel Sanders. Bradley Roby, to me, is number 5 because with him going forward, he's essentially taking Harris's spot. Harris is taking Talib's spot. So now Roby is that number 2.
This has been the Hull Show replay. For more, tune in weekdays from 11 to 1 on 1310 KFKA.
Mike Morris with Auto Collision Specialists joins me today to help explain why insurance companies are so devious in getting you to use their repair shops.
You know, it's a no-brainer. The hand-picked shops are protecting the insurance company's enormous profits, and that creates a huge conflict of interest.
Why does the insurance company even care about where a vehicle gets repaired?
Think about it. When you get into an accident, you become a liability. Paying as little as possible becomes their biggest priority. I just wrote an estimate on a brand new Nissan Altima. The insurance company's hand-picked shop wrote an estimate for $800. The actual cost of repairs was over $3,200.
Wait a minute, how is that even possible?
Well, they hope you don't fix the car and take the check instead. They just save themselves thousands. In my world, I call that stealing. In the insurance world, they call it cost containment. I have a moral obligation to fix your car right. That's why I refuse to participate in these scams, and you don't have to either. If you've got questions, give me a call at 356-8645.
Auto Collision Specialists, we'll take care of that.
Cutting-edge commentary from the edge of reality. The Scooter McGee Show is back on News Talk 1310 KFKA.
The following program is intended for mature audiences.
Welcome back, Gotham. Do you understand now why I'm so bent on it's time? Left and right. If the Democrats really wanted a blue wave and wanted to take back the White House, the House of Representatives, and the United States Senate, all they have to do is demand that every one of their candidates sign an affidavit to audit the Federal Reserve so they can bring that up against the Republicans, who clearly won't, obviously, well, because they're evil Republicans. And, yeah, see, there's the Gambino-Bonanno problem right there. We are standing by, ready now for a summer financial collapse, no different than what was to happen on September 11th and the days leading up to 2001. The only major financial institution to fail the Federal Reserve's annual stress test exam, Deutsche Bank. You're kidding me. Federal Reserve raising more moderate concerns about Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, and that they're going to limit the ability of those Wall Street banks to raise their dividends and buy back more of their stock. A recent stress test with the banks conducted by the Federal Reserve revealing State Street, for example, would suffer large losses. That's the only words they're using, large losses. Despite the concerns, the Fed's stress test results reflect a U.S. banking system that is dramatically strengthened from the financial crisis of 2007-2008. Regulators now giving the vast majority of the 35 largest banks the green light. Start pumping money back into the system. Problem is Deutsche Bank. Banks immediately announcing their plans to ramp up shareholder rewards. J.P. Morgan Chase announcing a 43% dividend hike, planning to buy back now nearly $21 billion of their stock. Citigroup says it's going to boost its dividend by 41% and buy back $17.6 billion worth of their stock. Wells Fargo, see how much in cash they got on hand? Wells Fargo raising its dividend modestly, saying that it plans to buy back $24.5 billion of their stock. In the stress test, the Federal Reserve considered how banks would hold up under a severe strain of another recession or financial market turmoil. Lenders also evaluated based upon their, quote, qualitative factors, risk management, internal controls, and government practices. I find that comment about risk management hysterical when it comes to, for example, Bank of America, as well as the corruption within Wells Fargo. The Fed, I love this, a non-elected, secretive board of self-appointed. The Fed then passes judgment, genuflect, on each bank's capital plan and how it's to reward its shareholders. So the bank doesn't tell how they do. The Federal Reserve's telling the banks now what to do. Do you understand the politicians are in the banks, or the politicians are in the pockets of the Federal Reserve? And again, they're talking about reducing your debt. You want to get rid of over $20 trillion in debt when we have over $100 trillion in unfunded liabilities? Think about this, Gotham. Our government is 20+ trillion in debt. U.S. corporate America is 6.3 trillion in debt. Deutsche Bank can't even survive a stress test. Banks here in the United States, cash rich. What are they going to do? They're not going to pump it back into the economy. They're going to buy back their own stock. What do you think's about to happen with the banks? What do the banks know that we don't? Back to the glaring exception of Deutsche Bank, stumbling repeatedly in recent years. The Federal Reserve objecting to the capital plan of German banks' U.S. subsidiaries. Widespread and critical deficiencies across Deutsche Bank. Stress test showing that Deutsche Bank USA would survive a recession. But it also found, quote, material weaknesses over its data capabilities, its controls, how it forecasts losses under stress and risk management functions. And it all but failed its internal audit. The Federal Reserve now saying together these weaknesses raise concerns about Deutsche Bank USA's ability to effectively determine its capital needs. Boy, I'll bet if you're a customer at Deutsche Bank, you're sleeping real good tonight. Federal Reserve shooting up literally a Tomahawk missile across the bow of Deutsche Bank US. In its statement, Deutsche Bank now says the United States arm has made significant investments to improve its capital planning, its controls, and infrastructure. The company will keep meeting with regulators to address concerns, but Deutsche Bank says everything's fine. Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley. Funny, because regulators took more of a middle ground approach with them. And those Wall Street firms are not going to be allowed to ramp up their dividend and buybacks beyond what they've paid in recent years. Why? Because supposedly both Morgan and Goldman originally submitted overly aggressive plans that would have dropped their capital levels below what the Fed considered acceptable. Federal Reserve also says concerns about the result of a one-time accounting hit caused by the corporate tax cut.
You're
Yeah,
a
whatever.
lying sack of crap. You're a lying sack of crap. You're a lying, steaming, stinking, nasty sack of liquid crap.
They took a one-time hit on their books because they spent money they didn't have yet. That's a corporate tax cut would not have affected any dime in your account. You didn't have the money. You counted on it. Unbelievable. Meanwhile, State Street, the custodian bank that's paid its Safeguard clients' assets, also drawing concerns now from, quote, the regulators. Stress test showing that State Street would suffer losses of one of its largest trading partners defaulting. State Street now is going to be required to take steps to address the matter. Company says it's been allowed to raise its dividend and buyback plan. It's funny, they've got all this cash to buy their stocks back, but they can't use the cash to prop up their own bank. This news actually fortuitous for the conspiracy side of this show. That'd be the reality side of this show. But this news coming at a very anxious time for the banks. It's summer. It's slow. Third quarter. No, nothing till fourth quarter wrap up. And that's when they futz with economies globally. We've seen that in the past. And we don't have to go back to September 11, 2001 to see the writing on the wall. Boy, that car's got a lot of horsepower. Man, pull your head out. They're going to lower your taxes, put more money in your pocket. The money they're allegedly putting in your pocket is worthless. The corporations and the machines are taking over. You're allowing it with this petty infighting. Tomorrow morning, SpaceX will be launching its 15th cargo mission to the International Space Station with nearly 6,000 pounds of supplies on top of the Falcon 9. This time, however, they're also going to be adding an extra little piece of payload. Inside the hull of that payload will now be the first ever artificial intelligent robot crew member. He gonna go live on the space station. The robot's name is Simon. Crew Interactive Mobile Companion. CIMON. CIMC. That's what I see. Crew Interactive Mobile Companion. CIMC. No, that's Simon, Scooter. Okay. One gender, one gender. I don't know where we got the other 396 of them. He looks like a volleyball with a computer screen on one side. Kind of like those old late 60s, early 70s 8-track player thingies set on the portable. That thingy. You know, somewhere out in storage. I think I still have mine. I should go find that this weekend. The screen displays simplified cartoon face. The artificial intelligent robot will interact with humans on the ISS. Simon is equipped with 14 internal fans that'll propel the white ball, sucking in air and expelling it and moving around in any direction he wants. Simon can float through the can float through the space station, zooming up to astronauts that call his name, nodding and responding to questions. Airbus developed Simon for the German National Space Agency with the goal of whether to see if intelligent robots can cooperate with astronauts to simplify work in space. Simon has been already tested out on the Vomit Comet. And, of course, that's the airplane that flies the parabolas to create brief moments of what would appear to feel like weightlessness of space. Simon trained a few times on Earth with a German astronaut. He's now already on board the ISS. So the bots, microphones, cameras, facial recognition, ID software, they're all in play to recognize him as Simon gets up there. The makers, however, of Simon point out that the AI capabilities brought to us by IBM. Isn't that funny? As of tomorrow night, midnight, they're cutting the feed to this show, but they've got the funds to finance this bull. They don't fund this. It's just the application I use for IBM. You're going to have to start paying for this now, Scooter. I'm not the only one. There are thousands of broadcasters out here. Again, tomorrow they'll get through, but the cutoff is midnight. They're not even giving a straight answer. Is it East Coast? Is it West Coast? Is it where we're at? So when the feed cuts, the feed cuts. And that's just... And again, there's going to be an announcement forthcoming. I now know of the abuse of power. I now know of the conflict of interest. I know about the FCC violations. I know about the fraud, and I know about the discrimination. And I will not be going gently into the good night. So I've been told to do some things that I don't want to do. I'm going to figure out how to find a lawyer. That's just the end of it, okay? Because I'm not shutting up anymore. I'm done. And this is what I said, which I'll now say publicly, so we can cite this. First of all, I got you on tape lying. You don't like the word lying. Well, tough you lied. You're allegedly in the position where you're supposed to know, so you didn't misspeak, you weren't misinformed, you fucking lied. The conflict of interest was brought up day one. The abuse of power has been allowed to go on to the point of discrimination. And now you're dealing with potential federal election charges. You've put too many people into play at risk for your own personal gain and your own personal greed. So I don't give a who said you could do what you wanted. I'm telling you no. And in the meantime, you think your doesn't stink? Well, we'll wait and see what a judge says in open court. Somehow I have a feeling, and I don't care how old you are or aren't, somehow I have a feeling a judge in a robe or in a Hawaiian shirt's going to go, "You're f***ing crazy." I'm sorry I wore my Hawaiian shirt, Your Honor, but am I innocent? Yes, you're innocent. Get out of here. This guy's going down. Where was I? Sorry. What? Okay. Minute long. No, I'm done. We got tens of hundreds of billions of dollars for artificial intelligence in space. We've got kids dying, American children, dying of homelessness and hunger, malnutrition and lack of medical attention. And these corkscrew and ice holes want all these illegal immigrants in as voters? Tell you what, Republicans, neuter the Democrats right now and allow every illegal into the United States, but don't let them vote for 7 years. And I'm sorry it's coming out sideways, but I'm pissed. And I know. And what I said is if one person knows, then 3 people know. If 3 people know, then 10 people know. If 10 people know, 12 people know. And if 12 people know, 36 people know. It either becomes a story or non-story. Well, when I'm getting confronted in public and people asking me to confirm if it's true or not, it became a story. You lied. And I caught you on tape.
KFKA.
Hey, you party animals and super fans out there. Greeley Westside Liquor's got your party covered. Be the hit of your next party by calling 970-353-0036. That's 353-0036. Greeley Westside Liquor delivers to all of Greeley. Fast through the drive-thru and even faster by delivery from the friendliest folks in Greeley. Remember 30th and 10th Street? Remember Greeley Westside Liquor delivers after 4, open 8 a.m. to midnight 7 days a week, and Greeley Westside Liquor is your party bowl central.
Last time on the Hull Show.
Top 5 Broncos that are feeling the most pressure. So here's how I've got it going. I go Case Keenum, I go Devontae Booker, and at the left tackle position, I do go Garrett Bowles. I'm going number 4 with Emmanuel Sanders. Bradley Roby, to me, is number 5. Because with him going forward, he's essentially taking Harris's spot. Harris is taking Talib's spot. So now Roby is that number 2.
This has been the Hull Show replay. For more, tune in weekdays from 11 to 1 on 1310 KFKA.
Mrs. Baker, Billy is going to be just fine.
Oh, thank goodness.
We'll just need to get his leg in a splint.
Why use an expensive splint when this tree branch will do the trick?
If he appears to be in pain, we may need to prescribe something.
A prescription? Just give him some cough syrup like all the other parents do.
Billy's also going to need a local anesthetic when we stitch that wound.
Oh, Billy doesn't need any anesthetic. He's a tough kid, aren't you, Billy? High five!
Ow!
Aren't you glad you're not Billy? This scenario is not far from how your vehicle is treated when you take it to a direct repair shop recommended by your insurance company's claims department. They'll push the shops to take shortcuts on your repairs in hopes that you don't notice. This is Mike Morris, owner of Auto Collision Specialists. I promise that the only person in charge of your repair will be you. Our commitment at Auto Collision Specialists is to restore every customer's car to pre-accident condition. After all, isn't that why you paid your monthly premium? When you want control of your next repair, give me a call at 970-356-8645.
Cutting edge commentary from the edge of reality. The Scooter McGee Show is back on News Talk 1310 KFKA.
The following program is closed captioned for the thinking impaired.
Welcome back, Gotham. 84% of Americans support turning undocumented immigrants over to authorities. The poll coming out today, 6/28/18. The chief strategist under Hillary Rodham Clinton's 2008 unsuccessful presidential campaign. Prominent Democratic pollster Mark Penn was sent out into the field to gather data that would suit their side. Oh my God. The poll that Mark Penn penned and asked, do you think notifying ICE, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, would in fact increase crime because it would inhibit people from reporting crimes? Or does it decrease crimes because it takes criminals off the street and overwhelming the decrease? Well, that's a rather tricky verbed question. What is stunning, and according to Penn, strikingly out of sync, is that actually, again, 79% don't even want sanctuary cities. 84% say if there's one in the city, if you're an employee or an official of the city, you need to call them. Oh, I'm sorry, Boulder. I'm sorry. This is a This is one of your own people, of course. Oh, that's right. You're Democratic Socialists of America now. It's funny, when I say that the United States is the United States Socialist Republic, you think I'm full of... And yet you're electing Democratic Socialists as we speak. Which flag are we giving them? I at least had a cost-effective idea. We just switched flags with the Soviet Union. President Trump making sanctuary cities a frequent target, of course, during his administration, as there was a key point in his presidential campaign. They don't want a wall. They never wanted a wall. On the evening of September 11, 2001, when the hallowed members of Congress stood on the steps and sang God Bless America, they didn't want a secure border. They wanted an open range, open season, because out of chaos comes order, comes control, comes oppression, tyranny, totalitarianism, kleptocracy, corruption, all of the things the Democratic Party right now is alleging that evil Trump will do unless we stop him. The American people, overwhelmingly 84%, believe when someone's arrested, they expect someone will notify federal immigration authorities And if you've violated the law, they come get you and take you out of the country. Wow. Kind of delusional about what our structured 3- and 4-letter agencies do. Sanctuary cities include Greeley, Colorado, Denver, Colorado, New Orleans, Chicago, New York. The Federal Appeals Court, of course, on Tuesday, temporarily narrowing the scope of nationwide injunctions against the Trump administration. And that, of course, has the Democratic left at this point apoplectic on a twofold front because their own party is now collapsing. And it's being taken over by entitled little promising the world to everyone who don't even understand the structure of government. And I'm sorry, I'm going to say this. Government hasn't solved one problem, but government sure has created 1,000 new ones. And all you do is keep giving them more power in hopes that one day it might get better. And it hasn't. It's gotten incrementally worse. And I'm telling you, Gotham, now that the Democrats understand how badly they're going to lose in November, they're going to pull out the stops. We're going to see more shootings, only because the media is going to continue to hype them. Stand by for the semi-automatic ban of the shotgun. Key Democratic strategists tried to make the question so fuzzy that it would muddy the data. Overwhelming consensus. Shy of 80%, 79. We don't like this. 84%. You're a sanctuary city and you work in a sanctuary city and you got an illegal sitting next to you in handcuffs, you call the feds. That's what we pay taxes for. We pay taxes to sustain the debt and pay for mismanagement of government. That came out of the Grace Commission report. That's Ronald Reagan. Remember, it's his whole fault with the Supreme Court now. I saw that story and I just went, you got to be kidding me. Ronald Reagan's only bad mistake, it was appointing Kennedy. I'm sorry, Ronald Reagan and Kennedy, how about Ginsburg? She's like, what, who, me? Not yet, Hot Mop. And Dennis Miller? I wish I'd thought of that, babe. That was funny. Dennis Miller had a very interesting tweet about Ginsburg today. I don't imitate Dennis Miller, and he doesn't imitate me, so that's the deal. As well as the deal, stand by for a third and final hour of the Scooter McGee Show live from the CRP 4x4 studios.